I started researching near-death experiences in 1978. I really haven't quit. I thought I had. I thought I'd quit a couple of years ago. But God had other plans. So I'm still doing it. Most of my original facts and figures are based on 3,000 adult near-death experiencers and 277 child experiencers. So if you read my stats, that's what they're based on. Of course, it's a lot more than that now, but that's what they're based on. I'm one of these kind of scruffy researchers that I'm a field worker. Let's face it, I'm a cop's kid. I was raised in a police station. I'm a field worker. So I'm with the individual in most cases, not all. So I'm observing your body as well as listening to your words. My dad had a wonderful way of putting things. He said, the body says more than the mouth does. So I'm one of these people that I'm watching bodies. I'm getting into the homes whenever I can. I'm having sessions with significant others as well. There is no near-death experiencer who realizes how much they have changed for many years. That person's never been invented yet. None of us realize how much we've changed. So you really need to get into the homes. You need to talk to the neighbors. You need to talk to the employers. You need to broaden what you're looking at, not just the experiencer. So I've been doing that since 1978. That's why I call myself a little scruffy. What I noticed along the way is that children, although they have the same experience the adult has, and by the way, there are 4 significant types of experiences, they have them too. And they have this same pattern of after effects, which is physiological as well as psychological. They do not integrate them. Have I got you on a cliff? An adult takes 7 to 10 years to integrate their experience. Don't believe anyone who said they did it quicker. They didn't. You really need to meet with their spouses and children and, what have you, to find out. It took a lot longer than that. With children, it's 20 to 40 years. Children do not begin to integrate their experiences until they are adults. The job of a child is to grow up, to fit, to learn, to experiment. What are they going to do with a near-death experience? It's that extra big thing over here. And how do you bring that into your life? A lot of them don't. They put it on a shelf in their mind. And many of them don't remember it till they're an adult. So, we're talking about a real different situation here when we're talking about working with children. If you're going to study near-death experiences, if you're going to expose yourself to near-death experiences, you're also exposing yourself to abortions, missing twins, birth trauma, womb experiences, You're opening the door to this whole gamut of life and death and how we experience life and death. Please use as your reference for this talk my book, The New Children and Near-Death Experiences. Everything is detailed in that book. The frontispiece in that book was written by John Leona. John Leona had his near-death experience inside his mother's vagina as he was being born, and then drew a picture about it, and it's in the book. So we're opening ourselves now to this incredible drama of life and death. What happens to children who have their experience in the womb? Yes, they can. Yes, they do. One half of my experiencers, 277, could remember their birth. In those cases where I could get back and talk with mom and dad, maybe aunts and uncles, I never found a goof anywhere, no goof. They were absolutely right on with every detail. They remember their birth. 1/3 had pre-birth memory going back to 7 months in utero. Now we know scientifically that that the fetus can feel pain at about 7 months in utero. My research suggests that the brain is coming online at the same time. And we've got all the kinds of interesting cases with the womb waker-uppers, because when they are proficient at language afterward, they start telling their moms and dads things moms and dads don't want to hear. I call it the whoops factor. It's like, whoops. If you get the book, the big book of near-death experiences, there's a section in there called Womb with a View. It's amazing what these kids can remember. Let me give you an example. There's nothing better than examples. This is a case where mom was pregnant. This is like maybe a month or two before delivery, and the doctor is saying the baby is dead. There is no heartbeat. You're going to have a stillbirth. So we're getting like 3 months or 3 weeks before birth, and there's a lot of commotion in the family because the father is convinced this is a boy, and that, no heartbeat? Well, his wife had killed his son. So he went out and got drunk, came back, grabbed his very pregnant wife, threw her across this dining room. This part of her body, stomach area, landed into the corner of a very, very big, heavy wooden table. Split her open. Had to rush her to the hospital. Of course, the doctors are very, very serious and doing everything they can to save her life. They removed the fetus. It was just kind of like a little hairy lump, not breathing. They just put it on the countertop and did what they could to save the mother. They were able to save the mother's life. And then pretty soon this little old lump over here on the countertop started breathing. And the doctors went back to the mom and dad and said, well, May we have your permission to use medical experiments on the baby? The baby is not going to live anyway. So may we have your permission to use medical experiments on the baby? So for 30 days, they did just that. Now, let's go back a little bit to the violence. The father going out, getting drunk, throwing his wife across the dining room, and they're rushing to the hospital to save her life. Why wasn't that reported? Because the doctor was the father's drinking buddy. So we've got a little politics here. 30 days later, they've got a child that's breathing pretty regularly now and is basically a baby. So thank God for the medical experiments in this case. But the child is a girl. When that child was 2.5 years old, she had her own library card. She was reading newspapers. And on a particular family day, when aunts and uncles and everybody was gathered in the living room, she went up to her dad, pointed her finger in her dad's face, and returned to him every word he said when he was beating up Mom. She described the dining room, what happened to all of the furniture, and what the place looked like, out loud in front of everybody else. She was 100% correct. Now, this is a dead baby inside the mother's uterus. Are you with me? This is what we go through, and this is what we find. So it's going to open your mind. It's going to open your heart to this incredible panorama of life that is so much bigger and more complicated than we ever dreamed or ever thought. And that's what happens when you start researching children. Now, yes, I did all of this work. I did it way back when. But ever since then, I've noticed there is a marked difference between adult experiencers and child experiencers. I don't care how old the kid gets. Let's say they're 70. There's still a difference. You find this in any IANS group. You find this in any meeting. There's a distinct difference between adult experiencers and child experiencers. The kids think differently. They grow up differently. Their perception of the world is different than an adult, even an adult experiencer. They're markedly different. It's because of that that I'm going back to reprise my work. So all of you have this sheet of paper, call for volunteers, in your packet. If you don't have one, I think it's been scattered around everywhere. For those of you who are in live streaming, you can get this call for volunteers on my website, www.pmhatwater.com. On the home page, right away, call for volunteers. So those people who are not in our audience can participate as well as those who are. I really, really, really need a lot of volunteers. Folks, this is not a quiz. Nothing on here is numbered. This sheet is designed to take you back to your own childhood, to help you remember, connect, describe, Send me volumes if you want. And please send me a picture. Please draw something for me. Drawings are extremely important. I'll show you why in a little bit. And I really, really, really need these. I would like to have at least 100 to 200. So far, I only have 31. And 20 of them came from Beverly Brodsky's group. So yay, Beverly Brodsky, wherever you are. Other groups, please get busy and spread the news, and let's get this out. Because of the child experiencers, those from womb to the age of 5 are even more unique. They are incredibly unique. So I want to go back and take another look as to why. What has happened to their nervous system? What has happened to their brain? What has happened to them, their mind, their ability to live, their ability to have relationships, and especially what has happened to their aspect, their thought of themselves. How do they feel about themselves? So many of them come back guilty. I say that because they've been in this light-filled world with love, and suddenly they're jerked back to the earth plane. And the average child will say, what did I do wrong to have been jerked back from this beautiful world to live here? What did I do wrong? So you're going to run into guilt issues. You're going to run into all kinds of interesting things when you start working with children. Let's have the first drawing. I've never done this before with these kinds of drawings, so this is new for me. Oh, okay. Look at that. This is a child who had her near-death experience at 9 days of age. You with me? 9 days old. She's in surgery. That's a drawing on the top. Notice that it's not a regular kind of bed. Turned out to be that she was absolutely right. That's what the bed looked like. The overhead light for her looked like a UFO. I mean, she's 9 days old, for heaven's sake. The doctors looked like spooky ghost-like figures from another world. So here's her drawing of what's happening to her at the age of 9 days old. Now, stop for a minute. How can a 9-day-old infant remember this forever, as long as she lives? She did remember it. And later on, she had to have special radiation treatment. So 9 days old, an unusual staph infection surgery. She repressed the experience. It came back when she was 28 years old. She had the same experience at the age of 28. And that enabled her to understand what happened to her when she was 9 days old. Now, in her experience, while she was on that goofy-looking table, there was this very heavy, loud man's voice that said, I am your inner stranger. You will do what I tell you to. That voice followed her until she had the second experience at the age of 28. And then only was she able to make peace with the voice. So sometimes we run into some really heavy stuff with kids. And I just wanted you to see that. Let's go to the next one. This is new for me too. This is very self-explanatory. The one on the top, this is a 5-year-old that's having a hellish experience. And when she's in the middle, she died, and up on the ceiling are these horrible black beings with these claws, and they're after her. So are kids always met by angels? No. Some of them are met by strange creatures. The one on the bottom, 11 years old. By the way, my first study was the age of 1 to 15 years, but most of my cases were under the age of 9. So here's an 11-year-old drowning, lots of drownings. I would say the number one cause of death was drowning. And so here she's in the lower left-hand part, and it's like going to the movies, and so she's seeing her life. She's the youngest of like 4 or 5 children, and they're all girls. And there's an angel. The angel did not say a word, just hovering, while she's able to see her life pass by. This is an 11-year-old. Her life passed by. And she's seeing herself being an absolute menace to all of her sisters. So from that, she learned to speak with her heart, to not be such a menace and bother her sisters all the time. That from now on, she was to speak with her heart. Next one. Now, they're all interesting. I think this is even more interesting. Age of 3 to 4, we're not really sure, maybe 3.5, somewhere in that range. You'll notice in the lower left, it's an ice pop. This child, before she started enjoying this special treat, called it a death pop. It's like she knew what was going to happen. And yes, indeed, she choked on it and turned blue. Mom is panicking, so is Dad. They're holding her upside down. Now, in this case, look at that and realize she's viewing it from the dining room, looking toward the kitchen. This is happening in the kitchen. She's in the dining room, looking at this event. She had no idea the kid was her. She's standing in the dining room watching this. Now notice the concerned look on Mom and Dad's face. This was a little girl who took great pride in behaving, being a good girl, being a wonderful girl. She looked at the faces of Mom and Dad, and she thought, oh, this is an awful little girl. She's upsetting Mom and Dad. Oh, this is awful that she's here. She could not connect that the child was her. It took her years to realize that child was her, and that the grimaces on the faces of Mom and Dad were out of panic and love. They were not out of anger. She thought it was anger. Now look again at that drawing. Who's the kid in the far right? She named him. This was Michael. He wasn't conceived for another year. You often run into this in cases of kids. They'll greet or be greeted by their future siblings, as well as past siblings. Next one. Now, we're going to see a series of drawings by the same child. Her name is Amanda. Amanda died. Let's see, I want to be absolutely clear on this. Amanda died when she was 2.5 years old. She drew this shortly after she died. She's the one in the middle. No, she's the one in the middle with kind of a lavender body. The one on the far right is her older brother, and she's going to have a younger brother. She doesn't know it yet. Neither does Mom know it yet. But look at Mom's lower extremity, and it's yellow. Always watch what a child does with the color yellow. I've had a lot of training in interpreting drawings, especially from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. You want to watch what a child does with the yellow. A child will tell you oceans of information with the color yellow. So Mom has a yellow stripe. She didn't know she was pregnant, but she was. Now, in children's drawings, usually the sun is on the left side of the paper. Almost never on the right side if they're healthy and happy. Notice that the sun is on the right side. It has black rays, and the sun is frowning. So the child knows something is wrong here. Then notice that fully yellow being, almost in the middle of the middle. And then toward the top, toward the sun, is the famous yellow door. If you've got children, especially if they're little, who are drawing yellow doors, pay attention. That's the door to the other side. That fully yellow being is a spirit. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, Amanda, one on the top, Amanda's now 4.5 years old, so that's 2 years later. Notice that she's still not walking on the ground. She's still floating. So she's still up there. Lots of hearts all over everywhere. What have you been hearing at this conference? Love, 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 unconditional love, butterflies, love. Same way with kids. But she's still got that little doorway over there. Now it's taking on some color, but there's still the door there that she can zoom back to the other side. The bottom one, Amanda is now 7.5 years old. So she's now in school. Notice the uniqueness of this drawing. Finally, the sun is on the left and it's yellow. It's bright. It's spiritual, like suns are supposed to be. And notice her house. Windows, 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 everywhere, windows. Of course. So you can see everything. Yes. Hearts everywhere. Train track, sidewalk. Rainbow door. That blue thing on the bottom right, that's a swimming pool. But look what happened to the yellow door. It's gotten really big. Whoa, it didn't go away. It's still there. It just took kind of a little different shape. Okay. Before we go to the next one, I share those with you just so you get that sense of what a child goes through, what is in a child's mind. And children often talk about prayer beams. Prayer beams, they see prayer. Prayer is real. It has substance. They will see if a person is saying a prayer, they'll see that energy or that beam come out of the person's midsection and fly over to wherever it is that the person is aiming the prayer. To whomever is to get the prayer, the beam will get there. And the prayer beams are described as either white or silver or gold, or most likely the prayer beam is like a rainbow, but they're vertical bands instead of horizontal bands. And usually the tip of the prayer beam will be this incredible bright white, and maybe the end of the prayer beam might be an incredible bright light. And I asked one little boy, one little experiencer, what's it like if a prayer beam hits you? And he just grinned and was, cuddling himself, and it was warm and tickly all over. So if you get hit by a prayer beam, it's warm and tickly all over. Don't you just love what kids do? Okay. Next one. Prayer beams. Now, these pictures were taken by Harry Oldfield from England. Harry Oldfield took Carillion photography, redid and completely changed the camera so that he could take a different kind of picture with Carillion photography. So this is a church in Canada. All you Canadians that are here, this is Canada, closer to Vancouver. Same church, top and bottom. Church in the morning, you're seeing, and I don't know if you can see it from there, but you're seeing the prayer beams. I'm going to pass this out so you get a better view. I'm sorry. Pass it around, just make sure I get it back when you're through. Let me call your attention to these beams. They're rainbow colored, and they're going out from the person saying the prayer. They're going out from the church to wherever it is they're supposed to go. There was no crystal in that church. There was nothing to account for these colored beams going out. However, that white ball that you see on the lower left, that's not a person's head. We do not know what the white ball was. It wasn't there physically. It was there when he took the photograph. So we don't know what the white ball is. You can figure that out for yourself. But this is a church filled with people saying prayers, and overhead, there go all the beams. Okay, that night, same church. There is a street light, but it's far enough away that it could not have been responsible for those reflections. So now you're getting a better view of prayer beams and a better sense of how they're banded. The colors are not horizontal, the colors are in bands. This is showing, as the children say who've seen this, and as anyone else has said who has seen this, that the prayers keep going day and night. If you've got a concentrated bunch of people, like in a prayer group or a meditation group, or maybe in your home, you've got a bunch of people saying prayers, the lower picture seems to indicate that those prayers keep on going. After you said them, they keep on going. How long they keep going, we don't know. But the indication here is at least 12 hours, maybe longer. And the little kids are just going nutso when they see these pictures. It's like, wow. And the next, the next page is simply more information on Harry Oldfield. So we're seeing more information now on Harry Oldfield. If you want to get addresses and that kind of thing. We can do that later. The book is Harry Oldfield's Invisible Universe, that's written about his Carillion camera. It's a wonderful book, except that please be very patient with the obvious hero worship in the book. You know, if you can get over that Harry Oldfield is a god, and rather look at what Harry Oldfield really did, it's a good book. Okay? So you're going to get a lot of that hero worship in the book. The authors. Next one. This is going to be a real quickie. Can you make it larger? Is it possible? You can't make it larger. Sorry about that. This is some of my percentages. Mine works different from before, 84%. Significant enhancement of intellect, 68%. Let me talk just about intelligence and school. Now, this is a total of 277 kids. From the age of birth to 15. How do I say this? 48% were scoring 150 to 160 on IQ tests when they could take them, with no genetic markers to account for the sudden jump in intelligence. And the jump in intelligence happened after the experience, not before. Now, let's divvy that up a little bit. From birth to not quite the age of 6, the jump in intelligence to 150 to 160, by the way, that's genius, if you didn't know that, on an IQ test. Most teachers will say, well, 136 is genius, and other teachers will say 140. These are kids scoring 150 to 160, no genetic markers to account for it. Okay, from birth to the age of not quite 6 years old, the jump is 81%. Now, from those kids from birth to the age of 15 months who had a near-death experience, the jump is 93%, except that their scores were almost in the 200s. Some of them were over 200. Now, in that same range, birth to the age of 15 months, if they had a black light experience instead of a white light experience, it was a 100% genius jump. 100%. In 180s, 185, 190, up into the 200s. Folks, something is happening to little ones who have a near-death experience. As I said Thursday night, I'm saying it again. The near-death experience is not just a light show with a storyline. It is an incredible dynamic that is changing us in significant ways. And you can really see that with the children. Let's go to the next one. I'm sorry it's not bigger. The way the experience ends determines how and what the child does about the experience initially. The way the experience ends determines what the child does about it or thinks about it afterward. So if it ends with a sense of loss, like they lost the other side, they lost the beings on the other side, they lost that love, then they feel it's their fault. Everybody went away. they feel guilty. If they feel rejection, like they didn't fit, then that means they're bad and shameful. It's a shameful thing. If they feel betrayed by the experience, and many of them do, because here's all this love, and they come back to a world that's not loving, parents maybe who are not loving, and they feel betrayed. For those kids, they feel abandoned. Let's say acceptance. They feel accepted, fully accepted in their experience. Then they feel like they've found home. They're finally unified their home. If they feel joy after the experience, then they feel trustworthy and confident of what happened to them. They'll tell you everything with confidence. There's no hesitancy. If they feel loved, then they feel as if that experience was a special gift. And they feel validated and loved, forever loved. Let's do a little quickie on the last one. Next one, just a little quickie. Remember that one? Hit all the newspapers. It's called Hands of Hope. That is an actual photograph. The tiny hand of a 21-week-old fetus. His name is Samuel Alexander Armas. It emerges from his mother's uterus to grasp the finger of Dr. Joseph Brunner, as if thanking the doctor for saving his life. Little Samuel was diagnosed with spinal bifida. Samuel would not have survived his birth if not removed from the womb and had the surgery before he was born. Isn't that an incredible picture? Look at that little hand grabbing the doctor's finger. If that doesn't get you, I don't know what will. I mean, yeah. Wow, you just melt on the spot. Woo, melt. You can leave it there if you want or take it down. 10 minutes left? I can't believe that. Okay, really, really fast. I'm sorry. Really, really fast. You can always get the article markers on my website. Again, pmhatwater.com. It's in the article section. I did a lot of work in libraries to find out if maybe some historical people might have had a near-death experience as a child. I think I was possessed of library luck because I found Abraham Lincoln, Albert Einstein, Black Elk, Queen Elizabeth I, Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, whom I feel is the true Shakespeare. And I can show you that in the book Future Memory. I have a special appendix just on Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, his health, his physical health, what was going on. And just point for point for point, that man was a near-death experiencer. Winston Churchill, Walter Russell, Valerie Hunt. She was the first scientist to objectify electronically the presence of an aura. Edgar Cayce, thank you, Neil Helm. Benedict Cumberbatch, the actor, read his history. Oh, I'm certain that man had a near-death experience. Of course, Colton Burpo, you've seen the movie, Heaven is for Real. Ari Hallmark, you need to know more about Ari. Most of your Catholic saints, most of the saints canonized by the Catholic Church, had near-death experiences when they were children. Okay, what are you going to look for? Everybody out there. Sleep patterns change afterward. They nap less. They have more flow states. So if you've got a little kid that's not napping and is restless, but is having a lot of flow states, look again. Decrease in the ability to express and socialize. Okay? Why should a child go out on a date with someone when they know in advance what's going to happen? Why bother? So a lot of kids are like this. Why bother? They tend to withdraw, do a lot of love pats. Yeah, you just give them a little pat once in a while. Oh, that is so important. Massage, little love pats. They're good with pets and plants and cooking and chores and nature and gardens. They love that kind of stuff. Be careful of pharmaceuticals. Oh, please be careful of pharmaceuticals. This is true of all near-death experiencers. We tend to lose our tolerance for pharmaceuticals after the experience is over. But with children, they are medicated according to age and weight. What happened if the child had a near-death experience? You could kill them. So if your nurses out there, if your doctors out there, listen to me. I had a nurse had an emergency situation with lupus. She was rushed to Johns Hopkins Hospital. And the first thing the ER doc did, I wish all ER docs would do this, emergency room doctors. The first thing this Johns Hopkins doctor did was he said, have you ever had a near-death experience? Educate the medical people. Have you ever had a near-death experience? She said, yes. At the age of 7, I drowned. He wanted to know all about it. He knew, I don't know how he knew. God bless the man he knew to drop the dosage to the least possible dosage he could give her. This is an emergency. Usually they flood you with drugs. He knew to drop the dose to the least possible dosage that he could give. She got well and went home the next morning. No problem. Thank God for the Johns Hopkins emergency room doctor. I hope they all do that. They're very sensitive to sun and sound. You know, what do you do with kids? You kick them out to the door. You want them outside. Of course you want them outside. That's healthy. Be careful about bright sun. Let them out in the morning, let them out in the late afternoon or evening, but be careful of bright sun. Football practice, marching practice, whatever. Careful of sound. Kids with sound today, playing everything at double decimals. That's painful for a child who's had a near-death experience. I really, really feel that children who have a near-death experience as a little bitty one bond to the other side, not their parents. Got that? They're bonding to the other side, not their parents, so they grow up feeling alien. That doesn't mean they came from a UFO. So that's a big thing. Loss of parental bonding, an adult mind in a child's body. They tend to think more as an adult. The average child comes back more mature. The average adult comes back more childlike. They switch. The learning ability tends to Reverse. I want to spend a little time on that. The learning ability tends to reverse. Sorry. We need a few more minutes. The average near-death experiencer who is a child comes back with the ability to abstract. Most of them come back with the ability to abstract. They're dealing on the conceptual level. Most human beings don't learn how to abstract or deal on the conceptual level until they're in their 20s or 30s. These are kids coming back that way. Let me give you an example. This little boy drowning, first grade, 6 years old. He drowned about halfway through school. They had to keep him home for a while. When he's going back, now be with me here, he's going back to the first grade. What are they reading in the first grade? See, Spot, Run. Dick and Jane. You with me? He's reading Greek mythology and understands every word. And he goes up to his teacher and he said, "Why? Was the book Robinson Crusoe ever written?" What are you going to do with that if you're a first grade teacher? Okay, we're talking about the learning curve. The average learning curve for human beings is, it's called concrete learning. Step by step by step. Everything is just built on the same, or on the level before, and you get higher and higher in knowledge, right? Step by step by step. These kids come back, many of them, still with the ability to see in lots of different angles and levels. They come back, most of them are smarter than their teachers. So they have to relearn how to go back to concrete learning so they can fit in school. Do they make it? Most of them don't. Because they know more than their teacher does. So school is boring. I've got this one little boy, again in the state of Georgia, only he was not in Atlanta, but in Georgia. He was about, 4 or 5 years old. He had his experience when he was very younger. By the time he's about 4 or 5, he's seated at the breakfast table. Mom and Dad are there, and the family, and there's a box of breakfast cereal in the middle of the table, right? Breakfast, cereal, box, without moving. He reads the top of the box out loud, reads both sides of the box out loud, reads the bottom of the box out loud, reads this side, and never touched the box. And his parents looked at, read along as he was reading out loud. He never missed a word. These kids don't think outside of the box. The box was never there to begin with. So we're dealing with something incredible that's happening to these children. I'm going to end with a quote from the latest batch. And by the way, some of these kids try suicide to get back to the other side. They do. I have a 21% suicide rate with kids. You get less than 5% with adults. With kids, it was 21%. Okay, I'm going to hurry and read this, and then we're through. Living life from a child experiencer perspective has been quite challenging. As a child, when you feel other people's suffering and emotions, have little or no say in things, feel duty-bound to help others, that you can handle the extra burdens. Life doesn't feel safe. It's hard to be here. Contrary to the ecstasy most adult experiencers have from their NDE, a child has to try to manage being in this world and manage their gifts and sensitivities. I've spent almost my entire life not wanting to be here. I've spent knowing oneness. All sentient beings are treated with respect and their journey is sacred. Often I have been put in a position to say a harsh word or step up to a negative behavior, and it gets very tiring. It's easier to breathe there. The only way I've learned and dared to investigate my own feelings has been through talking with child experiencers I trust. Physical life is very small for me, but my internal life is expansive. It is fascinating and difficult. Child experiencers have a great deal to share when viewed from another perspective. Let's respect our children. Let's welcome them here. And let's say thank you for coming.